For anyone that's new to Oko Assembly, we are a platform for marketers and creatives. We host a variety of webinars and in-person events, so you can follow along at Oko Assembly across all platforms. And I'm so excited to introduce Christa and Michelle, the founders of Community Academy. They have decades of experience in building purpose-driven brands and are now focused on helping founders and teams harness the power of community to drive meaningful, sustainable growth. So I'll pass it over to you two. I'm so excited to absorb everything you share today.
Mhm. The pleasure is ours. Thanks so much for having us. We are pumped to be here, and every opportunity that we get to share about community building and how it can support brands create long-term loyalty. We are game. So, and thrilled to make a few new friends today. I am Krista Hull, and Michelle and I are going to introduce ourselves in a moment. And I'm just going to start sharing my screen as we have some slides for you. One sec. There's a couple familiar faces on here already, and I'm just trying to place how I know everyone. One sec. Okay, how about now? Are my slides right?
Looks great.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're thrilled to be here, and especially in like the moment that we're navigating in the world, in light of current events, including global politics, political unrest, and the realities of climate change, and everything else going on in the world. Michelle and I really believe, and Devin and Jasmine, we all really believe that we need community now more than ever. And it's essential that as leaders and brands, we create moments of connection and inspiration and look for ways to support and elevate our customers and our communities as often as possible. So that's really the spirit with which Community Academy was born. So great to see that many of you have your cameras on. We're hoping to engage with you as much as possible. So please keep it that way if you're able. And if not, no worries. And then, of course, we'll just ask you to stay on mute unless there's an opportunity for you to share. And with that, I'll hand it over to, oh no, I'm going to speak to our agenda briefly. So we've got like 35 precious minutes. We're going to do introductions briefly, and then we're going to give you a mini workshop um, that will help to create some definition and distinction around what community is and community marketing is all about. And then we're going to guide you through an exercise that is designed to help you create your own community anchor. And some of you might be able to complete this during our time together today, and it takes a little bit of work and reflection. So we'll offer a template and a few resources to you as homework if we're not able to get that fully complete today. And then we will wrap up. Next up, yeah, we're committed to wrapping no later than 10:40 Pacific time, and we plan to share our slides with you. If you're interested, you can sign up for our newsletter and we can send you a copy of these slides. I also know that there's going to be a recording shared shortly. So Mish, why don't you say hello?
Hi, everyone. There's less familiar faces for me, but Krista introduced herself briefly. I'm Michelle. We are the co-founders of Community Academy, but our story starts long, long before today. Now, over 10 years ago, Krista and I had the pleasure of being very close colleagues at Lululemon, working on bringing the brand to life in local and global markets. And it's there that we sort of connected and developed and really understood that we had this shared belief and passion in community for brands, really. And from there, we had the pleasure of co-joining a startup called Bailey Nelson. So we went from big global brand to, scrappy startup. But took some of our similar philosophies and were able to apply that to the growth strategy for Bailey Nelson. Fast forward, we know we've both had really rich careers kind of independently of each other, but following a similar path. And yeah, I'll tell you a little bit more in a bit about Community Academy and what we're up to with that. But yeah, it's so nice to meet everyone. We're really excited to be here with the OCO Assembly Collective.
Mhm. In a moment, we are going to have you introduce yourselves in the chat, and we've got a couple of prompts for that. And we wanted to pause here and give you the opportunity to snag this QR code. I'll also put a link in the chat because, as I mentioned, couple reasons. Well, first of all, we'd love you to follow along with what we're creating with Community Academy. We would also love to share a copy of this deck with you as our gift. And then last but not least, in the spirit of supporting local businesses in your hometown communities or wherever you're located right now, we want to give you the opportunity to win a $50 gift card to a local business of your choice. So if you subscribe with us today, we will randomly draw a name after the session completes and be in touch with you to make that happen for you. So it'll have to be an electronic gift card. But we'd love to help you support a small business in your community. The link will come in the chat just a moment. And for now, let's check in. So we've got a couple prompts. Don't overthink it. Our time here is limited and precious, but we'd love you to share where are you joining from today, where in the world, if it applies to you, the brand or business that you're representing, and you can just skip that if you're not affiliated. And then last but not least, what's a community or the community that you feel most a part of in your life? So go ahead now and say hello and answer these 3 prompts. And it'll be so fun to get the chat going and see who is with us today. I will snag those prompts for you and pop them in the chat as well. Okay, Mish, back over to you.
Amazing. Well, back to us. As you share your own introductions. So yeah, as I was saying earlier, Krista and I, we share this philosophy that you can achieve growth through not just, traditional and even newer, more performance type channels. We strongly believe that community and building around your brand's purpose is sort of a way to future-proof your brand. So when we were in our, senior marketing roles and observing sort of the trends and what's going on in the market, both of us had noticed this pendulum swing where, brands were going through their heydays of being able to invest in paid social and, have their ads convert really well. And that was, creating this hockey stick growth for many brands. But unfortunately, those days were sort of short-lived, and I think many brands were starting to realize that the ways that they've deprioritized investing in their brand and really sharing their purpose was having an impact on their ability to kind of to have a longer view of growth and to develop really strong loyalty amongst a customer base rather than sort of like a one and done relationship. And so we decided that it was time to take our knowledge, our deep understanding of the ways in which the mechanisms in which you can really drive community building as a brand and package that up as a sort of teaching, as a way for others to learn from us and then learn from each other. And that's how Community Academy came to be. We're now in the middle of our second cohort of folks going through the program. And it looks like some self-paced learning, but also a lot of community coming together, supporting one another in our group coaching calls. And then, of course, we also have other mechanisms to build our own community. For example, Brand Together is a session that we host once every month where we interview leaders who are themselves building communities in interesting ways. So we hope that you'll join us for our next session, which is actually later this week on Thursday. We'll share more about that in a minute. But yeah, that's Community Academy. And Krista. Uh-oh, here we go. we're gonna get into the workshop component of this. But thanks everyone for sharing your who you are, where you're from, and why you're here.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mish. Okay, so let's dive in and explore what community is all about. So, a prompt for you, and go ahead and feel free to answer this in the chat. We'd love to hear your initial thoughts and how you're arriving in this conversation today. But what is community, and what does it mean to you? And if anybody, we're like an intimate group. So if you feel inspired to come off mute and share, please do. Or you can go ahead and answer this in the chat. What is community, and or what does it mean to you? And there are no right or wrong answers. And Michelle and I never tire of hearing how you all distinguish this. And there are many definitions of community. We will, we knew that, oh, actually, this is your slide, Mish, so I'll hand it over and let you share our thoughts on community
Awesome.
as we hear from the group.
But I love what I'm seeing so far, the sharing a common interest, I love the word collective that supports and uplifts one another. Yeah, Krista and I, we felt, we better challenge ourselves to come up with a definition that we can really grab onto and with the lens of brands that are developing community. So to us, it really starts with generating that magnetic pull into something, right? So we are I'm gonna read it verbatim because we put a lot of care into this. So creating community is about igniting a feeling around your brand, fostering connection and relationship to your why, and drawing people in to feel a part of something special. So I don't know if anyone is either I haven't had a chance to read in depth who everyone is, but if anyone's a founder or has worked closely with founders, I think that's one of the best examples is when a founder has such a clear connection to their why. Like, why do they get up out of bed every morning? Why did they create this brand in the first place? If you're able to then translate that why out to more people who might connect to that, that is really the foundation of building community.
Mm, yes, here, Mish. So community building is relationship based, experiential in nature, and rooted in authentic relationships. And this is all about creating for and with your aspirational customer in mind. So creating connections and experiences through this approach is really fun and engaging for you and for your team. And then what's fun in our experience, what's fun and engaging for you and your team is it's contagious, and it's what creates that excitement and magnetic draw for your customers. So we have a whole lesson in our masterclass around the philosophy that community starts inside the organization, inside the brand, and with the culture and the DNA and alignment to purpose. And we believe it starts inside, and it is highly contagious and an important part of creating that magnetic pull.
So as marketers and, marketers responsible for holistically, driving growth and building brand, one of the things that we wanted to highlight here is that community marketing is a part of that whole 360 strategy. So you've got your brand strategy, your creative, digital marketing, email, site, all your channels, and that, community isn't something that you're like turning all your attention to. Obviously, it needs to fit within the grander scheme. And as our lovely slide here demonstrates, it's in red, it's bigger. We obviously feel like it's an essential part of your 360 mix, but also needs to interplay with your holistic integrated strategy.
Mm-hmm. So well said, Mish. And so we wanted to give you a little bit of visibility into the sub pillars that in our minds make up community marketing. And so we have developed a module for each of these sort of sub pillars, if you will. So influencer and ambassador programs. And this language is totally subjective, and different brands and businesses will use different language, but it's really all about creating deep, trusting, authentic relationships. And many brands will have tiered programs around this, from advocates who are really loyal, passionate customers, all the way to maybe a more defined and contractual brand ambassador program. And so we teach a module on that. Organic social media and content is an important part of your community marketing strategy. And this is all about, creating the conditions for user-generated content and for your loyal, most excited followers to be talking about and advocating for your brand on your behalf in an organic way. Events and activations is a sub-pillar. And, we want to acknowledge that these events and activations can happen in small, more intimate ways, like the way that we're all connecting today in this very intentional group, to large scale events that reach, thousands of community members at once. Collaborations and brand collaborations and partnerships is a sub-pillar of community marketing. And then finally, we have developed a module that teaches brands and businesses how to activate within a brick and mortar space. So that could be like a retail store, a cafe, a brewery, or like a movement studio. But anytime there is a brick and mortar location or set of locations, we have developed some content specifically around how to activate there.
I love that last one so much, Christa. I feel like the era that we sort of came up in at Lululemon, our leadership at the time, they really viewed our stores as community hubs. And so that was just a mindset shift where a lot of traditional retail brands, they just view, stores as a sales engine, right? How are we driving traffic in and how are we converting once we get those people through the door? Whereas having that mindset of your retail hubs are a chance to host, right? To be a host, to like welcome in the community. So having a community hub is so cool. I love it. Just wanted to add that in. All right, let's get into our exercise.
Yeah, so now that we've defined community marketing in our way, and we've heard all of your great ideas, we've established our recommendations on how this shows up within your 360 marketing plan. We want to guide you through the process of creating an anchor. So a question for you, and again, please feel free to, if you feel inspired, you're more than welcome to hop off mute. Otherwise, you could go ahead and pop this in the chat, but would love to hear from anyone in the group. What's an example of community building that you've tried, and what has worked, and why do you think it has worked? And I can think, like, right off the top of my head, our OCO friends have been actively building community for some time now, and I got to be a part of a really cool speed mentoring event that they created here in Vancouver, and I can think of a whole bunch of reasons why that worked. But we want to hear from all of you. If you have examples to share, please don't hesitate. And because of the way I'm screen sharing, I don't have eyes on the chat, so I'm going to lean on. Okay, great. Perfect.
Feel free, we realize time is of the essence. So if you've got ideas you want to share in the chat. I'll
keep going, and we can always pause if you want to chat. But thinking about the speed mentoring, which is totally, I'm improvising right now. I wasn't thinking about this ahead of time, but what worked from my perspective was the format was the small intimate groups that you all created. So there were 4 sort of guest speakers or mentors, and the format of breaking the group into small groups of 5 to 6 and giving us 15 minutes to connect, like sort of one-on-one and in that small group setting. I think it made that community event, it made it super interactive and engaging, and the small groups allowed for participants to have like one-on-one FaceTime, but also not feel too intimidated by by actually being one-to-one. So it was like a group of 5 with one mentor. And so there was a really nice balance of like FaceTime and then intimacy. And I think it really took the pressure off. Yeah, I really loved that. So from my perspective, that worked really well.
The other one that was popping up for me, Krista, was
Mm,
we ran a session with a group called Den Women's, a digital executive network. And what I loved, and obviously it was a group that, like our digital experts, so no surprise. There was an example of a brand that had actually a spark of like sort of customer engagement on from in a digital landscape. So it was someone who just happened to be incredibly passionate about the brand and was very vocal. And
mhm,
the brand it was able to kind of hop on that energy and harness that and actually asked that person if they'd be open to starting like a Facebook group. And they
mhm.
did. So it was like almost ended up living outside of the brand strategy and was really community driven and ended up being this really rich like place for conversation, place for engagement. Sort of reminds me of what, Sephora has with their forum. It really is like a manifestation of community, but still online. So wanted to highlight that as an example.
It was such a good example. And to be clear, this Facebook group was owned by the customers, these like passionate, spirited customers. And they began to both criticize, but also champion the brand without like ownership or facilitation from the business. And that was yeah, such an interesting case study that ended
And
up
and I
being
know it's
having
polarizing.
yeah, totally. But it ended up in the long run, not surprisingly, having more benefits than it did drawbacks. Because I think one of the things Michelle and I know, and you all probably know, is that, to a certain extent, any conversation, buzz, excitement about a brand is positive because it's getting eyes and sort of shining a light where it might not otherwise. Um, okay, over to you,
We
Mish,
could
for
have a
this one.
chat for days about this. I feel we've talked a lot about Reddit and the power of conversation that happens on that platform. It's like a tricky one for brands to actually kind of insert themselves into the conversation because you really have to make sure that it's so authentic and it's not self-serving in any way. It really has to come from a pure place. But I would say, Reddit is an example of an alternative platform. And then of course there's some, custom, if anyone actually we'll share this link, but our dear friends at Monday Creative have a podcast called My Best Campaign. And they interviewed Ty Haney, who's the founder of Outdoor Voices, and now Try Your Best, TYB. And that's actually a platform for brands to kind of
Mm,
launch communities that are more digital in nature. So that one we'll share as well. It's a great listen, by the way. So if anyone wants to
mm,
follow up on that. Okay, we are just getting we will stay focused, we will stay grounded. And on that note, as you're starting to think about this notion of a community anchor, which we're going to define in just a sec, but before we even get there, it's so super important to ground and or reground in your brand's purpose and values. So this may sound really obvious, but having everything this additional layer or any layer that's going to come underneath that north that like brand purpose and values, it needs to kind of ladder back and be connected to it. Otherwise it will flop, it will not go anywhere if it's not rooted in the why you exist and what actually is your point of difference. Why, if you didn't exist, what would the world be like? Or what would the world be lacking if you weren't around? Regrounding in that, we've both had this experience where we've kind of launched into building a community strategy and, assuming that we've got this, we know what the purpose, our purpose and values are. We know we're all kind of operating from the same place, and then getting to the place where we're like, okay, we've got this nice baked community strategy. And then the founders might be like, hold on, this feels a little bit off base. So it's super important that we start here.
mm. Yep, we both learned that one. So we share it with you here. Okay, so what is a community anchor anyway? It's a North Star statement that guides every strategy, tactic, action, or decision that you execute to bring your brand to life through community marketing. And so the purpose of a community anchor, and this looks different in different sizes, shapes, and types of organizations, but it is to state what you're committed to as a brand, either doing or being, and for what purpose, intention, or outcome. And it can also help create nice strategic alignment across internal team members and then all of your external facing marketing campaigns and initiatives. So we pulled together a few examples from brands that Michelle and I have intimately been involved in, just to give you some inspiration, an idea of what this can look like. So we'll start with Lululemon. And the anchor statement at Lululemon once upon a time looked like, and I think it really does still live on today in the DNA of the brand. But this was especially important in those high growth years as we were preparing to enter new international markets. So this anchor statement at Lululemon sounded like, we give without expectation of anything in return to create moments of awe and connection. And this mindset and approach really allowed for countless moments of guests of the brand having a wow, it's you experience. And sometimes this would look like a team member gifting a pair of coveted yoga pants to a new friend in a yoga class. And other times it would look like an invitation to an annual all expenses paid ambassador summit at the Four Seasons Hotel in Whistler.
Budget pending, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a sliding scale, as we all know. Okay, the next example here is from Day, who's a women's health brand, launched in the UK, and I joined at the time when we were trying to bring this mission and bring this brand purpose to a new country, so to the United States. Day's community anchor would sound like, we create opportunities for education and conversation with the intention to destigmatize women's health. So this was really all about creating access points, right? So our founder, she was incredibly knowledgeable and passionate and had her own personal experience of a negative experience with her own pursuit of, optimal health. And so by her creating these access points for her to share her story in a vulnerable way, that generated in and of itself, it was community generating because it created safe spaces and it busted down taboos and stigma. So that was Day's community anchor.
Mm. Yeah, and then we mentioned our shared time together at Bailey Nelson, which we should mention is an established and iconic eyewear brand that was founded in Australia. And when Michelle and I joined, we were just getting ready to introduce the brand in North America. So hence the scrappy startup stage. But Bailey Nelson, their community anchor sounds like, we retain a sense of being small and humble so that we prioritize meaningful relationships with our local communities. And this anchor is inspired by a founding employee who would personally deliver glasses to customers via his skateboard after his shift in the first ever store on Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia. And this original mom and pop shop wanted to maintain a strong sense of community and personalization as they entered new global markets. So a lot of their community strategy and onboarding and training inside the organization was designed to help retain this sense of being small and humble and mom and poppy. So checking in on the time, I think I can give a little bit of time to this. So to help you with crafting your own community anchor statement, we have pulled together a few prompts for you. And it would be great if you can have access, I'm sorry I didn't mention this at the top, but to a way of taking notes. So maybe open up like a blank note or grab a pen and paper if you have access. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds for each of these prompts, and I want you to just write down the first thing that comes up for you. Just take a few notes. And so we'll do 30 seconds for each of these prompts, starting with, what do you want people to experience most about your brand or business? And the next prompt is, what feeling do you want to evoke as people experience your brand? How do you want them to feel when they connect and engage with you or your business? And then finally, what makes your brand memorable? And so, a couple of reflection questions for you. And again, we'll share these prompts in this slide so that you can, this can be really fun to take away with if you work with like a co-founder or you have a team that you work with, to have a group of people complete these prompts. But reflection question number one is, what key themes or ideas stand out to you from this exercise? And oftentimes there might be like 3 to 5 keywords that show up in your notes as you reflect on each of these statements, that you could take a moment to like circle or underline or highlight here. 3 to 5 words that you want to include in your anchor statement. So yeah, go ahead and just take if you felt like you had enough time to capture some notes, notice what came up and are there any words or themes or ideas that stood out to you? Okay, and then here is our handy dandy anchor template. And you'll want to take this away and put some thought into it. I'll let you speak to this one, Mish.
Yeah, of course, right as an airplane flies by. Yeah,
Mhm.
so the examples we shared earlier from those three brands, this template is essentially in that same format. So stating what your brand is committed to, that's either what are you committed to doing or who are you committed to being for the world, and for what purpose, intention, or outcome. So at blank, we are committed to blank so that we can blank. So we hope you'll take this away. We hope that you'll revisit those prompts we just went through, go through them with your team, with your closest collaborators, and then really having this community anchor statement. We feel and we've seen the power of it to create sort of everyone rallied around a central idea, a central, you know, North Star, as we called it. And we can really see the power of having something like this that's rooted back in your purpose and values, to then, draft the rest of your community strategy against each of those sub pillars we talked about earlier,
Mm.
always laddering back in this community anchor.
Yeah, I'm just thinking in the moment spontaneously here about a client that I'm working with. I'm doing some community strategy consulting with a brand that, if you're from Vancouver, you will definitely know, Arc'teryx. And they have a problem that they're trying to solve, which is that their community approach is kind of blown up, and they have, their assessment of themselves is that they're creating more noise than they are creating value and impact. And this anchor template has been really supportive for them in aligning, like in distilling what their focus and their North Star is so that they can be united and aligned, especially as they expand to, hundreds of locations around the world. So just an example of how this is coming in handy for a real life, pretty iconic brand that hopefully most of us know. So, go ahead here, and if you feel called or inspired, you can again come off mute or you can pop this in the chat. But we've been here for a good time, not a long time, but we're curious to know, has anything stood out to you from this session? And if so, what? What's maybe one thing you'll take away from our conversation today? And or what are you inspired by? So you don't need to answer all of these, but do let us know if you have any reflections or feedback from our time together so far. You can go ahead and answer that in the chat, and we'll just press on. We've got a minute or two left of sharing. Mish, this one's for you.
Awesome. Okay, well, I had the pleasure of sharing a little bit about what Community Academy is earlier. And we talked through, what are those pillars, those sub-pillars that we have created modules around to teach the fundamentals of community marketing. So just to kind of review what Community Academy is all about, it's an online self-paced course that really it could happen over whatever span of time, but we really recommend kind of condensing it down into, we say 1 to 3 months here, but really 6 weeks, I think, is the sweet spot. We have live monthly coaching calls with myself and Christa, but also the cohort of folks that are going through the program together. So that ends up being an incredibly valuable learning opportunity and sort of peer coaching, just as much as it is a chance to chat with myself and Christa. And then we also have brought in additional subject matter experts into those coaching calls, and we also and slash into our modules as well. We had our colleague who used to run the organic social program at Lululemon. She actually co-developed that module with us. And then we have put together, and the details will be shared in a follow-up email with you all. Two special offers for the OCO Assembly community. Christa, do you want to quickly chat about that?
Yeah, I think we can leave the details to the email, but know that you can absolutely save through these special offers, especially you can save if you sign one person up, and you can save extra if you're in a position where you can sign two members of the same team up for the masterclass at the same time. We see huge value in team members going through the course together. And then just briefly, other ways that you can work with us. We love to lead live facilitated team training. And so we can bring any of our modules or even create custom workshops for your teams if you're interested. We are also available for consulting services in the realm of community-based marketing. We're game for fractional leadership opportunities. And then maybe our favorite thing to share with you is about our monthly brand together conversations. We have one coming up this Thursday, which is going to be our biggest and maybe best yet. We have over 60 new friends joining us this Thursday for a live and interactive conversation with our friend Bronwyn, who we worked closely with at Lululemon, and she's based in London as CMO of a UK surf brand, cold water surf brand called Finisterre. She's incredible and brilliant, and we are so excited to tap into her knowledge and expertise. And so you can sign up. We'll make sure you get the link to sign up if you'd like to join us this Thursday,
Thanks for
11
the shout
a.m.
out, Em.
Pacific.
We really appreciate it. We love them too. They're so much fun. They're the best part of
Yeah.
our week. And yeah, we host, like Christa said, we host them every month. So if you can't make it to this one, just stay tuned. Be part of our newsletter community. As we said earlier, this is your last chance to sign up via the QR code. And we hope you do.
We'll randomly draw a name today and reach out with this fun gift.
Mhm.
So,
Awesome.
Mish, it's 10:40. I didn't know if we could do it because we're so passionate about this stuff, and also because we love to hear from you. So our only regret is that it wasn't just a little bit more interactive, but happy to have been able to stay on track for time and to make some new friends. And just huge thanks, Devin and Jasmine, for trusting us and for prioritizing community marketing, because I think we agree now is the time to really double click into this this part of your strategy.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you both for joining us today. This was such a valuable session. Really appreciate you guys taking the time.
Thanks, everyone.
Amazing. And yeah,
Pleasure.
we'll send a follow-up email to everyone with the recording and all the links we talked about today, so you can stay connected with Christa and Michelle.
Amazing. We would love that. All right.
Thanks
Bye,
for joining.
everyone.
Thanks
Thanks,
again.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.